All right. Shalom, shalom, shalom. Let's start off by giving all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Prakaha Kodash. A double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who do teach and rule well. And shalom to the elect of the nation of Israel, whom salvation is for, to be delivered from these said perils, the famines, the pestilence, the sword, the invading of one another, being comforted not to receive the MOTB, which is the mark of the beast spoken about in Revelation 13, and 16, where it talks about they'll put that device inside of you, that you won't be able to buy or sell, unless you pretty much surrender unto this beast system, the image of the beast, all of his things that he set up, actually that the Heavenly Father gave him power to set up, a pretty much to get those ones, the undesirables to, won't turn their mind to the Heavenly Father and His only begotten Son because of the comfortability, that they find under this, under Esau Edom, which is a so-called white man who is the wicked in the scriptures, who was given a power, to take peace from the earth, you know, uh, uh, and along with that, taking peace from the earth, what does he do? He makes order out of chaos, And the topic of this lesson today is pretty much the knowledge shall be increased. And the knowledge I'm going into today is if you're in the know and you've been watching, you know about all these databases, these data centers, that a lot of these big time corporations are setting up, a pretty much to uh, uh, continuing and building the infrastructure of this digital society, and along with that digital society is going to come digital money, all of your information will be on a database, tied into that mark, which is, we know to believe through the spirit and power Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai, is the RFID microchip, that they want to mandate, to everybody, to the whole world. That's that time of trying that the scriptures talk about, But if you put your what comes with that, it pretty much shows you an alliance with this man instead of the Heavenly Father, because as we go into all the time, in the times of old, if you had a servant, that loved his master, and he wanted to continue to serve under his master, he would get something called a awl, and that awl, would typically be placed in the ear, to show forth uh, his alliance and his allegiance, his dedication to his master, like which is pretty much saying, I'll serve you until I die, and we serve, especially you Israelites, we have gone into a covenant with a very jealous power, so you saying that you allow this dude to pretty much be your master, your lord over you, there's means for destruction, which the scriptures talk about. Uh, uh, those who receive that mark will have their part in the lake of fire, which is America, Babylon the Great, being engulfed in flames during World War III, where thermonuclear missiles will be shot here, but the elect will be saved out of it, But uh, since we said all that, let's just start at, I was going to go straight to the point in 4, but let's start at the top in Daniel's 12. And then I got a couple of videos we're going to show. We're going to dig up a little bit of information. We're going to go from there through the spirit of power Yahweh by Hashem Shah. Where the inspiration of this lesson, the inspiration of scriptures, the inspiration of our apostles and elders, even these false prophets, even you, the listener out there, hearing this message is all from the inspiration of the Heavenly Father to, because as the scriptures say, this gospel of the kingdom will be preached unto the ends of the world, and then shall the end come, So within this gospel being preached to the end of the world, it's one of those messages where, you're going to receive it, and pretty much be washed and renewed in your mind, and try to serve the Lord properly, or you're gonna shun this message. You're gonna scoff at this message. You're gonna pull the shoulder. As the scriptures talk about, which pretty much is just a rejecting the message that's going out. But this is Daniel's 12:1, and it says, "And at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince, which standeth for the children of Israel, and there shall be a time of trouble." And that time of trouble that's being spoken about is the time of Jacob's trouble. And as you can see, if you're watching and you're tapped into what's happening on the world stage, you'll see that the Israelites are constantly being attacked. The situation over there in Venezuela, it's bubbling and boiling over. Because of what the enmity that's been there between the serpent seed and the seed of the woman, which are the seed of the wicked, Esau, Edom, and you Israelites. You can read that in Genesis. But that enmity is still there because of the birthright. And ultimately that enmity is just there because this is the Lord's show. There has to be as brothers say all the time, a protagonist and an antagonist. That's what makes for the best story being told. The underdog, who went through all of his lowliness, but he was strengthened at the end, and came back and overthrew his adversary. You know, that's the story that's told in the scriptures. That's playing out on earth even today. You know, but people don't read, so therefore they don't have the understanding of what's happening in life today. But hey, man, hey, the Lord, He's always done as the scriptures talk about. Before I do anything, I send my servants to prophets. So the Lord's sending His prophets, to tell you what's happening in the earth, and why things are happening. But it falls on deaf ears because what this truth and salvation is only for the elect of the nation of Israel. You know, that's why when you read in Revelation, it talks about 12,000 out of each tribe. You see, but then there's going to be a large multitude of Israelites that'll get this truth as well. That'll get that same deliverance. But the governing body is the 144 elect under Yahweh. Yahweh Shai, King David, the 12, and then the 144,000. You see, but it says such as never since there was a nation, even unto that same time, and at that time thy people shall be delivered, every one that shall be found written in the book. Yep, and that's talking about the elect, those ones that are going to be delivered, that are written in the book of life. It says, and many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall wake, some to everlasting life, and some to shame and everlasting contempt. And those are the ones who hear this message and they choose to scoff. They choose to mock. The Lord then pretty much ordained them from the foundation of the earth to receive this message. So what? They have to be reborn back into the kingdom, because as the scriptures tell us, ultimately all Israel will be saved. you know, but all Israel won't be granted salvation from the pending danger to come. They'll just be reborn, reincarnated back into the kingdom. But it says, and they that be wise shall shine as the brightness of the firmament, and they that turn to righteousness. So, and it says, and they that turn many to righteousness as the stars forever and ever. Yeah, and that's talking about the elect. The elect are going to shine. They're going to have a different visage about them that's going to show forth, that they are of that governing body. Those who had the testimony of Yahweh Shah, and spread it, and spread anyways, and spread it across the across the world. They making their bodies a living sacrifice, not caring what anybody would have to say. Not putting their family first. Not setting their pride aside. They just doing the will and going through the fire of adversity. So they won't have to go through that judgment fire. But it says, this is a point. Then we're gonna get a couple videos. It says, but thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book. And that's right. These words have been sealed and shut up. You know. So uh 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 the things that Daniel didn't write here, we have that inclement, a to have the understanding of what's going down here, especially in these latter times. We see everything in the end times that, that the prophets of old spoke about, we see them happening in the earth right now. So you can only imagine, that a Daniel was receiving, those same things. It says, verse 4 again, and it says, but thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book even unto the time of the end. It says, many shall run to and fro, and that many running to and fro, is what you see here today. I'm sitting in my vehicle doing this lesson right now, and what do you see? You see vehicles. You see planes in the air. Individuals have that luxury, to go to and fro at the drop of a dime with no issue, no problem. You can travel with no issues. But that time of all that is gonna stop too, because the scriptures tell us a man shall be desired to go into a city and shall not be able. This going to and fro is gonna stop. You've seen a, 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 pretty much an example of that. During this government shutdown that we just came out of. To the point where pilots, because their government paid, they're paid by the government. They weren't getting paid, so there was a lot of uh, traffic that was slowed down as far as the airspace. You know, but hey, it's coming a lot heavier in these times to come. Why is that? Because Esau, Edom, as we talked about earlier, he wants order out of chaos. So he's gonna make a situation to where things get so bad, to the point where uh, 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 everything's won't be readily accessible as they were. You know, food is gonna be tried. Your daily lifestyle, just as you know it, will be tried. But that's only for the purpose of implementing this mark that he wants to give you when he brings about that new system. Because the way they're gonna play it is, oh, this old system is corrupt. I can see a cyber attack. You know how it go. Some kind of a cyber attack. Some kind of infrastructure failure. With the electricity. Yeah, man, you can only imagine. But it's gonna be, as the scriptures say, a time like never before. So therefore, people are going to lose their shit, but they're going to offer you a solution, which is going to be this mark. That's why they're building up all of these databases, worldwide, and they're all over the place now. They used to just build them in country areas. Now they talking about they building them in rural areas where close to neighborhoods and shit, to the point where it's damaging, the surrounding neighborhoods. Even when you go into and I'll pull a couple of these videos up, just to show it. But anyways, let's continue on. It says, "And many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased." And a part of that knowledge being increased, is a look, you can artificially uh, uh, integrate anybody into any scenario in the world nowadays, to the point where you don't know if it's real or if it's fake. You know, you can go on these AI platforms and ask them any information, and they'll pretty much give you an answer. You know, but their main purpose for these databases is pretty much to keep everything on a database. You know, they want to as Alex Russo would tell you, after he spoke with uh, uh um the Rothschilds. I forgot exactly which Rothschild it was. The Apostle Gabar, man, he would know. He tells that story a lot. Because our apostles and elders, they've been watching these kind of these patterns and trends of Esau Edom, to the point where and we know your next steps. On top of we're rooted and grounded in the scriptures, so we have a basis and a guideline to know what this dude's gonna be doing. But hey, what did Aaron Russo say? Hey, they want total control. They want you in this database. To the point where you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. You be happy servants. A doing what's right for the system. And not for your family. And that's the thing. A the thought process of nation building is out of the door. Because what? The powers that be, they don't want competition. you know which the Lord gave a spirit to them now, where they will gave them power to. There is no competition right now. And that's ultimately because of his deception, his lies, the things that he tell you to be truth. you know uh uh he's a truth breaker. And he rules by the sword. So he don't mind a completely annihilating, a nation or a nation's land, just to benefit from their resources to further their narrative. But anyways, let's get some of these videos. I was on TikTok earlier, and just going through the data centers,
I'm just
the data
exhausted
centers
from
that's
it.
being built, and a lot of people,
Joy and Jean
are
Bandu
going
are a
through it
fifth
because
generation
these
farming
data
family in
centers,
New Carlisle,
uh,
Indiana, a
they
small
require a lot of
town with around
resource
2,000
to keep
people
them
in the
up and
northwestern
running.
part of the state. This is where
They
Amazon is
require a
building
lot
the
of
largest data
water
center in
to
America.
cool down
How's
these
your
systems.
water situation here?
They require a lot of
Tainted. It tastes
electricity. They
weird.
require a lot of
It's
space.
just not the same.
You think it
They
has to
bring.
do with the data
I'll just let
center,
these
the
people tell it.
construction?
Here, let's see.
They have them
This is fair use.
24-inch
Fair use.
pipes
I don't
pumping water
make
across the street over
any
there.
money
They're
from any of
dewatering,
this
as they call
content.
it, so they can put the
This is pretty
foundations
much
down.
They
just
went
for
through this process
educational
called
purposes.
dewatering because of Amazon's data center construction, where they were actually
it's pretty much
removing
a
groundwater
seminar.
that people rely on here for their
But
drinking
anyways,
water. This pond normally would be full up, but now you can see it's been vastly depleted. The Van Loo family owns over 200 acres, but their new neighbor will consume as much power as 1 million homes, guzzling millions of gallons of water from the Kankakee Aquifer to cool hundreds of thousands of computer chips. It will serve the AI star.
See, and that's exactly what we just said. They need a whole lot of resources to keep these these data centers up and running. To the point where it hurts the surrounding neighbors and things of that nature. And you've seen that too when they started to build these towers. Especially the 5G ones that you see now. You know, you heard a lot of complaining from the public. During that time too, because it was doing a lot of things to damage, the infrastructure and the surrounding, elements. Birds were dropping dead. People would say their health would start to deteriorate. Because of the radioactive pollution. Well, not radioactive. Yeah, I guess it no, not radioactive. Well, pretty much the same thing that's implemented during like cell phones. They tell you not to put it next to your gut, or next to your testicles, because it lowers testosterone, it ruins cells, things of that nature. I want to say that's called radio. No, that's not radioactive. Uh, it might come back to me, you know. But anyways,
Startup Anthropic, which is working to create an AI system that matches the human brain. And Amazon is its largest financial backer.
You don't think you can win?
No, you can't, man. They got better lawyers than we can get hold of, and then the town of Nuclear Isle threw us under the bus.
Still a lot of dewatering going on, even though they've been told they're in violation.
But, like I say, we're a little fish in a big pond.
Little fish in a pond that's been sucked dry by Amazon.
Indiana
that's
is experiencing.
the thing. A lot of these different corporations, they are down for this new system being implemented. So a lot of these major corporations, they get funded. They get endorsements. They get certain things because they have something that the powers that be, the global elite, that they need, which the technology that comes along with building this new digital system that they want to implement. And I read somewhere too that there's talks that that new ballroom, that President Donald Trump demolished, in hopes of building something new. Uh, uh, what's fun? Let's just get it real quick. Uh, see, yep, here we go. Um, yeah, because it's not getting funded by tax dollars. It's getting funded by major corporations. So the conspiracy that go on in the world nowadays is centered around what? Well, not centered around, but everybody's has their ideas for things that are going on. But this situation in itself makes sense that they're trying to pretty much build a huge database, a where that new ballroom is, But look, these are the funders that of it. Is the Meta platform funds that. They've put in let's see, say 600 billion. Hold on. It says CEO Mark Zuckerberg previously attended the White House diner for tech leaders in September, where he pledged at least 600 billion in investments. Oh, okay, in the U.S. It says by 2028. Okay, yeah, I was reading that wrong, but yeah, that he like we were talking about, they want to fund more into this beast system, just so they can forward the image of the beast, which the scriptures tell us not to worship. The image of that beast goes into what? His military might, his religious uh, uh, publicity, um, and then what? His monetary gain, you know which are also those three unclean spirits that came out of the beast like a frog. It says, let's keep going on. It says Apple is one of those founders, Amazon, well, not founders, but investors, Google, Lockheed Martin, yep. It says Microsoft, Comcast, Altria, Coinbase, also a crypto, uh, Palantir Technologies, T-Mobile, Ripple, yep, another crypto for blockchain. It says Hard Rock, and everybody knows about Hard Rock. It says Tether America, the Union Republic Railroad. Ooh, I didn't know that. It says Macron Technology, more what blockchain. It says Caterpillar. I don't know who Caterpillar is. Booz Alien Hamilton, HP. So just shows you, you know, who they're having to fund, that
Experiencing a data center in
the building and the reconstruction of the old ballroom in the White House. This is what we're moving towards. And they're and us through the spirit and power Yahweh Shemi Al Shah, we can see it. We know that the MOTB is the next biggest prophecy, written in Revelation 13. A to come, a to uh, uh, fruition on the earth. So anybody saying, hey, it's not going to be a RFID chip, which is a something you could put inside. Y'all stupid. It's gonna be sleeping. It's sleeping with white women. It's sin. You can't buy and sell with sleeping with a white woman. You can't buy and sell with sin. This is gonna be a new monetary system. That they disturbing the AI. Monetary system that they're gonna set up. So they can show forth their power. And anybody who don't get down with it, you'll be ostracized from society, so to speak. But there's still gonna be ways you can barter and get around. That's why, what is that? Isaiah the 60th chapter, where it talks about, hey, my servant shall eat, but you shall be hungry. Hey, we're gonna be able to be good in those times of trouble. Lord willing, I'm of that number.
Invasion. 30 minutes away, another data center fight is unfolding.
I asked for you to show More Perfect Union's wasteland tonight so that people can see with their eyes.
At this city council meeting in Michigan City, Indiana, resident Eileen Mark is asking city officials to play a More Perfect Union video we made a few months ago about Musk's XAI data center in Memphis.
Now, Westchester went to XAI to see that they had 35 gas turbines operating and polluting our air.
Why isn't this video being shown tonight?
The reason? The developers behind that XAI facility, Phoenix Investors, is now trying to secure a tax break for a new data center in this small Indiana town.
What is going on in Memphis? What Phoenix Investors has done in Memphis with their end user, tenant, Elon Musk. I didn't get even a response from.
Let's let this Jake woman
I've
talk.
been hearing a lot of people talk about how they are getting these data centers that are being put in their neighborhoods, and when they go to city council meetings, a lot of these politicians are not listening to them, not listening to their concerns. They're still going above what the people who voted them in office saying. A lot of you all are starting to get a little bit beside yourselves, and it's really going to take for us, the citizens, because they're building one here in Indiana too. Maybe one of the reasons why AES is talking about they want to increase our bill again. This is what I mean when I say that it is so much deeper than left versus right. So much deeper.
Yeah, it is a lot deeper than left versus right. You know, these are two birds, two wings of the same bird. You know, they're in complete agreement when it comes to establishing the system that they want here. You know, all the rest of this stuff is just is just for show. You know, like the Epstein's file, for instance. You know, it's just for show. These niggas don't have a problem with what they do behind closed doors. You know, granted they're going to fuck off, they nasty, they freaky. You know, but that's the nature of Esau Edom. You know, and now they just through their means of witchcraft, they told you once upon a time that this was a God-fearing nation. You know, this is a biblical Bible nation, a biblical nation. You know, but now, as we've gone on, you know, because I think they try to establish that since the conception of America and forwarded it up until now. But during the 60s and the 70s, you know, people won't believe in that Bible, you know, this is a Bible nation anymore. You know, things started to get real freaky during that time. You know, you have quote unquote rock and roll. You know, you had jazz. You know, a being put into, you know, a mainstream music media. You know, a lot of things would start to be more accepted. You know, you had the hippie movement. You know, so now you get up into today's date. You know, it shows that there ain't no Bible believing nation. You know, what they believe is showing themselves that they are God. That's their main thing, and that's what this system's going to come about too. So anybody still believing under that banner of freedom of electing your next politician or a councilman or mayor or president in to represent you, hey man, you've been bamboozled. You were part of the horse and pony show that's going on. You know, the bread and the circuses.
In red versus blue. It's good versus evil. When we can finally put our grievances aside, and I'm talking to you lefties, stop automatically assuming that everybody who does not vote like you is your enemy.
Anyways.
These are the people that
I
put
seen
you
another one that stood out to me. It was this couple. I think it was in Tennessee.
This is Amazon.
But they were just going over their grievances. And you can put data centers in, and you're gonna run into a lot of different information about where they're being built. And trust me, they're being built. Let's do this.
There are approximately between 4,000 and 5,500 data centers in the U.S. Recent estimates around late 2025 put the number at around 5,427, with Virginia, Texas, and California having the highest concentration.
There you go. So there's 4,000 to 5,500 data centers just throughout the U.S. alone. Not to mention the data centers that's across seas, in the east. China. I think China has the biggest one. Let's look it up real quick. We're gonna end it.
The biggest data center globally by area is the China Telecom Inner Mongolia Information Park in Hohhot, China. It covers over 10.7 million square feet and functions as a global hub, managing cloud computing and digital services for China Telecom.
Yep. So it just shows you, hey, that's where we're at in this thing. Hey, there's data centers, all throughout the world right now. And why is that? So it can store your information. You can be plugged into the digital society that Esau Edom wants to bring to show forth himself that he is God. So we're not, as the scriptures talk about, we're not ignorant to Satan's devices. So therefore, we know what's going on, and we can properly give that warning through the spirit and power of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua. So with that, man, I'm gonna end off by giving all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua. Once again, double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone. Shalom to the elect.